Pride Night at American Family Field. The Brewers celebrating the LGBTQ+ community, and there was a Pride marketplace on the concourse and a pregame drag show.
Some of American Family Field's offerings, particularly a drag show, drew concerns on social media about whether it would be appropriate for families.
The MLB has now officially been destroyed and is no longer a family event.
It is extremely inappropriate for children.
Never mind the fact that you might not fully agree with some of the said lifestyles if you're a Christian.
If children are allowed to see this, it can be very damaging.
The androgyny thing and what they're doing with all this removal of gender and everything fits right along exactly with the satanic agenda.
They do these drag queen story hours, and they're dressed very scantily with very young children.
To say the performance is not family friendly is an understatement.
This drag performer, Dora Diamond, tell me this is not a modified striptease. Tell me this is not a sexually suggestive performance. When children are there, it is inappropriate.
Genderless, trans stuff, all of it, it's a push for a satanic androgyny agenda.
But exposure to anything that is sexual in nature, including drag shows, which very obviously are.
This is where we're at, folks. Virtue signaling, pride events, can't take your kids to the ballpark for one night.
Why does it have to be in front of 8-year-old kids?
This is taken right from it. There's no way to put it.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't see you come in to my library set. Hi. In case you didn't already know from that intro, my name is Dora Diamond. I am a musician and an entertainer living and working in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On June 8th, 2022, I had the privilege of hosting and performing in a drag show for the Milwaukee Brewers' annual Pride Night. From its announcement earlier in the month up until days after the performance, the event was met with furious backlash, mostly if not entirely by right-wing conservatives. This backlash led to all kinds of fun things like threats against the Brewers, the event, and most importantly, the performers and myself. I wanted to make this video because up until this point, nobody has really spoken about the event from the perspective of those involved. And because I feel that the events reveal something much more concerning than the event or even the backlash itself. In addition, I wanted to celebrate the efforts of the staff and the performers because, despite everything, this show truly was a joyful experience, and I want to share that with all of you, as well as hopefully making it a yearly tradition. Strap in, babies. This video is going to be a long one. So grab a snack and a beverage. We're going to do this in a few chapters. Chapter 1, the backstory. In early May of 2022, I was approached by a representative of the Milwaukee Brewers about this year's Pride Night. I had worked with them the previous year when I sang the national anthem before the Pride Night game. Link below. This year's event was going to consist of a drag show featuring myself and 3 other performers, held in the beer garden of the restaurant to be named later, before the game. A night of fabulous frivolity during the holiest month of the year, Pride Month. But because this is America and we can't have nice things, this news did not sit well with the more, let's say, traditional crowd. In early June, about 5 days before the performance, the show was announced on social media, where it was promptly shared by conservative pundit and blood and soil Barbie, Tammy Luftwaffe. Sorry, Tommy Lauren.
A drag show? Are you freaking kidding me? Does the woke crowd have to put their paws on everything? And those who don't wish to participate are automatically labeled bigots and homophobes. No, just leave baseball alone.
Her post was then shared by other right-wing talking heads such as alt-right Milwaukeean myth-informed MKE. I wanted to find a screenshot of their tweets, but sadly it appears the account has been suspended. Along with him was Dan O'Donnell, seen here doing his best Joe Rogan cosplay. This cheery thumb of a man, with the help of the now defunct myth-informed MKE, scoured my YouTube channel to find my most salacious video, plastering it on their socials with the title, "This is the one who will be hosting the Brewers drag show." This led to a wave of backlash directed at the team, the staff, and the performers, consisting of allegations of pedophilia, general outbursts of homophobia and transphobia, and even some death threats. The backlash was centered around the idea that because drag largely happens in adult-oriented spaces like bars and sometimes features things like sexually suggestive dance moves, that naturally this drag show at the family-friendly baseball stadium would of course also be sexually suggestive and debaucherous, therefore traumatizing everyone's innocent Christian children and damning them to an adulthood of sodomy, disco, and brunch. Or worse, transgenderism. Fast forward to June 8th, the day of the show. The location has now been moved to a conference room away from the general public, guarded by extra security in the event of an encore performance of January 6th. The show goes off without a hitch, everybody's happy, except for the conservatives, but who cares? And we all lived happily ever after. Except that the conservatives were still up in arms, crying for the hypothetical safety of the hypothetical children who were never even there in the first place, and demanding that the Brewers remove all the gay from the premises immediately. But then, like all news cycles, they quickly find something else to be outraged about and the backlash dies down. Okay, we all caught up on the timeline of events? Good. On to Chapter 2. Debunking the backlash. So, let's break down these reasons for outrage and why they are all, in fact, garbage. Okay, outrage reason number 1. The person hosting this illicit drag show is a transgender stripper who will be transing and stripping in front of these innocent children attending the show. So while the first part is technically kind of true, the second part, of course, is not. So when this backlash first started, a performance video of mine was circulated by conservative editorial websites decrying my lewd and lascivious behavior. It was my digital drag performance of my song Bad Boys, in which I sing and perform a slight striptease while dressed as a dominatrix. This video was used to illustrate how inherently sexual drag is, why that is inappropriate for children, and therefore why my presence in the show is also inappropriate for children. And I admit, if you go by that video illustrating that point, it can seem pretty convincing. But let me show you where this argument falls apart. This video is one of many performance videos featured on my channel, and if you take a millisecond to look, you'll see that not only is that video from 2 years ago, but that there are no less than 3 other performance videos posted between the featured clip and the time that it was shared, including a love song and my performance of the national anthem at the 2021 Brewers Pride Night game. Link below. So they had to scan through my channel until they found a video that supported their argument. And once they found it, they were able to use it to define me as an entertainer and largely as a person, and further their message. The reason I bring this up is because when you use a single video to illustrate a point, it provides enough to send the intended message, but once you look deeper and see multiple different examples challenging that message, it's much harder to sell that point. And let's be honest, that's all they're really doing. Selling a point to be able to further their message. If you could see the other videos, you could easily see that not only do I perform a wide variety of songs in a variety of genres, but that I am perfectly capable of tailoring my performances to the audiences that they serve. So long story short, do you really think that I was going to show up to a family-inclusive event at a baseball stadium dressed as a dominatrix? Really? Do you really think that I can't tell what's appropriate for which audience? Come on, guys. But that's the thing, critical thinking doesn't sell outrage, and outrage always sells. Outrage reason number 2. Drag is inherently sexual and therefore inappropriate for children. So this is a pretty common misconception about drag. When people hear the word drag, they think of a few things. Bars, sex, RuPaul's Drag Race. But what they don't realize is, 1, historically, drag has been used in theater, entertainment, and storytelling since the dawn of humanity. And 2, drag can be identified in pop culture from now going all the way back to before Shakespeare's time. It's been featured in movies and television since their inception, and the vast majority of those examples are family-friendly. Children have and will be introduced to drag, and it's not inappropriate. It's just another form of art and entertainment. My point can be distilled to this. Drag is nothing but a form of performance art, a medium. It has no inherent morality or immorality. The morality is assigned by the artist. Mrs. Doubtfire is just as much drag as my striptease is. The moral outrage against drag is not only misdirected and misinformed, it's also dangerous, which leads me to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, looking deeper. So you're probably asking, why is this such a big deal? It's just a bunch of strangers on Twitter throwing around the word groomer. I know the accusations are obviously false and wildly reactionary, and so do most people. The average person with the capability for critical thought probably knows that a baseball team isn't sending your children to become hapless victims of queer sex demons. But the fact is, it's not about the validity of the accusations. It's not about the truth or about moral righteousness. It's not about any of that. It is and has been about one thing and one thing only, and that's oppression. And it's the oldest trick in the book. A 2018 article written for Wired magazine by Emma Gray Ellis reads, "Alleging that your enemy preys upon children is an ancient propaganda tool that's been used by everyone from medieval Catholics to the Soviet Union. It's a powerful indictment because it trades on fundamental human fears. It's designed to otherize the opposition and sabotage any sympathy you might have for them. It's a ubiquitous tactic because it works. Children represent the most sacred ideals any society can have," says Margaret Peacock, a historian at the University of Alabama who has written about the role children play in propaganda. "They represent the future. Because humans are biologically wired to protect their offspring, painting your enemy as a defiler of innocence and a threat to the next generation instantly dehumanizes them. And because many societies see pedophiles as not just monstrous, but irredeemably so, this charge provides endless opportunities to justify mistreating the group accused of it. Establishing your opposition as a subhuman beast has been justification for the harshest forms of retaliation. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, European Jews were accused of kidnapping Christian children to use their blood in religious rituals. Also throughout the 19th and mid-20th centuries, European Jews were the victims of pogroms and the Holocaust. Where false pedophilia charges go, genocide and repression follow. Barely a decade later, the threat of child predation helped rationalize the Cold War on both sides. The Soviet Union condemned capitalism by suggesting that the US was so reluctant to use social services that its children were forced into lives of crime and prostitution. Over in the US, communism was the real thief of childhood, transforming children into brainwashed robots capable of turning their own parents over to the state for crimes such as hoarding grain. In the US, the marches of the civil rights movement occurred alongside a steady drip of propaganda painting black men as a sexual threat to white women and children. It was as a tool for the othering of the black man, excusing brutal suppression and surveillance, Peacock says. It's arguably helped lead to the rise of the police state they've come to live in today. For the same reason, attempts to criminalize homosexuality or block marriage equality have also come along with accusations of pedophilia. Proving these suspicions would require elevated levels of domestic surveillance, unwarranted searches, wiretaps, but stoking fears to produce hate has a way of prompting people to let civil rights slide. Fortunately, those efforts didn't pan out, but accusations don't fade easily. Jews are still charged with mixing children's blood into matzahs. Brainwashed Russian children are still a common trope in US cinema. Stories of predatory black men resurface every time a police officer shoots an unarmed civilian. The myth of the LGBTQ child predator lurks behind every bathroom bill. This tactic is and always has been used to demonize marginalized communities, and historically has always been a successful harbinger of things like fascism and white supremacy. That's why we need to pay attention. Setting aside the statistical landslide of pedophilia cases perpetrated by the Christian right, and the fact that this particular media circus provided a convenient distraction while a certain series of congressional hearings were about to get nationwide media coverage, we need to understand that this has never been about children's safety. It has always been a technique used to target marginalized people and justify genocide. That is why it is so important to shine a light on this. We are, at this very moment, witnessing an accelerated rise of Christian nationalism and fascism, and they're using these age-old tactics to bolster their efforts. And I, for one, can't stay silent about it. I love my community and I love my country, and I want us to live in a world where our safety isn't constantly threatened by transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and white supremacy. So, where do we go from here? That's really not for me to say. My main goal here was to educate and provide an insight into this fiasco that didn't have a MAGA hat on it. And now I've done that. So, now I want to present to you something a little more positive and uplifting. As a tribute to the hard work and incredible efforts of the staff and performers, I wanted to share some highlights from the show. So, without further ado, here is the 2022 Brewers Pride Night Drag Show. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4!
Happy Pride! Oh my gosh, everyone looks so great. It looks like I'm not the only one in drag today. We've got some Brewers drag happening tonight. Showing the colors, putting on the geesh. Yes, ma'am. Give yourselves a round of applause. You all look amazing. Where are you? Oh, there's no one, because it's a 21 plus event. Oh, weird. Maybe someone should have read the website before trolling me on the internet. Weird. Okay. Funny how that works sometimes. Let's go. So happy that you joined us for this tonight. This is the first ever Pride Night Drag Show, a historic night. Thank you so much for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause. Let's do it every year. You already know, folks. Yeah.
all for joining me for this video. It was kind of hard to make given the subject matter, but I'm very thankful that I did and that I could get my story out there. I do have a lot of hope that things will get better in the future. We just need to stay strong and stick together and stand up when things like this happen. I want to express my deepest love and gratitude to the Milwaukee LGBT community as well as the Milwaukee Brewers. We stood up to bullying and bigotry, and we had a damn good time doing it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like this, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos. You can find my alternative YouTube channel as well as my original music, my merchandise, all of my socials at my Linktree, which will also be in the description box. Thank you so much again, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Bye, darling.